Once upon a time, the writers Kurt Vonnegut and Joseph Heller were at a party in the home of a billionaire. Kurt said to Joseph, "How does it make you feel to know that our host, only yesterday, may have made more money than your novel, Catch 22, has earned in its entire history?" Joseph smiled and replied, "I've got something he can never have, the knowledge that I've got enough." According to the Joseph Heller, a successful life is largely driven by balance and moderation. Not too much of anything, not too little either. Having just enough is power. We all grow up in a scoia'dy, continuing to remind us that we have not reached the ceiling or limit of our capacity. The pinnacle is never realized. We are continuously reminded that there is always a bigger sales target to reach. There is always a higher market share to achieve. There is always a nicer neighborhood to live in. And there is always a better digital device upgrade available. Today, our trajectory of constant improvement has burned itself into our expectations like unalterable genetic code. We are living in a forward-looking culture that is helplessly lured in by the next leap forward in ease, practicality, comfort, and efficiency. Many of us believe that the path that got us here is by default the path we ought to continue following. But what if this is not in fact the case? What if the linear narrative of more, bigger, better, faster eventually runs into a wall of finite resources? What if this mad dash of progress is a circular trap that is usurping our imagination and placating us with new toys and free shipping? What if more, bigger, better, faster has some negative side effects? What if we are on a treadmill of ever-increasing speed that is forcing us to keep up the pace until it simply burns us out? In today's globalized consumeristic society, more is easy. Our natural proclivity is to have just a bit more. Our society reinforces this idea that more means safety, more means security. With more, you will never be hungry. You will always be just a bit full, because more means you don't have to fear less. So, fear of less drives us to more. Consumeristic propaganda continuously bombards us with the idea that less is never good. Less will leave you stranded. Less will catch you with your guard down. Less will let you down when you need it most. Less does not satisfy. Less only leaves you wanting more. Less is never enough. However, in reality, the sages of old taught, it is only when we reduce more, or increase less so as to satisfy our needs and desires that enough can be found. Philosophy of simpler living says, enough is a very personal metric. Like our center of gravity, each of us must find what is enough by swaying from less to more until a comfortable medium is found. Author Patrick Rohn, in his book Enough, write about a place between the absolutisms of unbridled consumption on one side and monastic Luddism on the other. According to Patrick, we must reconsider everything in light of one simple value, that is, enough. Philosophy of minimalism says, we must develop our daily habits around an ethic of need, responsiveness. Minimalist lifestyle asks us to investigate the intentions and assumptions behind every choice we make, from the icons on our desktop to the shirts in our closet. And the perfect metaphor to describe the idea of enough and how to discover it can be understood by knowing how to walk the wire. Fumio Sasaki, a minimalist writer, says, we all have a center of balance that is unique, different from everyone else. As one walks the wire, hands out, wobbling to and fro, this is what one is in search of. As we get older, this process might become easier, faster, with less wobble, but it will never end. No matter how good one becomes, he will always need some device to assist him. Arms stretched, a long pole, a racket or fan. Why is this? Well, because the conditions are constantly changing. The tension of the wire is never exactly the same each time. Even a slight breeze can make a difference. Even if nothing on the wire changed, even the most seasoned wire walkers would still need to make constant, slight adjustments to maintain balance, both physical and mental. So is with the idea of enough. What is enough for you will be different from what is enough for me. Also, what is enough for each of us will change with changing conditions. Therefore, the goal of simpler living is to find the sweet spot, the center of balance, that allows you to have enough of what your needs when you needs it. But even this will change and requires constant adjustment and reevaluation as the conditions change. Just like balancing on the wire, joy of enough comes from trying things out. It comes from challenging our preconceptions. It comes from having less, trying more, than reducing to find out what is just right. Henry David Thoreau says, "Joy of enough comes from letting go of your fear of less. It comes from letting go of the false security of more. It also comes from having more, losing it all, and finding out what need really is. Ultimately, enough is hard work. In order to get there, one must let go of what-ifs, assumptions, guesses, and half-truths. One must overcome fear, self-doubt, and thoughts of grandeur. One must let go of those fears that aim to knock us off balance and send us running towards more or less. The unexamined life is not worth living," says Socrates. If one buys a big house, or a large hard drive for that matter, many of us will, over time, have a tendency to fill it. Why? Because there is no cost to doing so. There is no real hardship for buying that extra couch, assuming you have the money, in the case of the house. With the hard drive, there is no real cost to keeping 10,000 photos all in RAW, or having a dozen text editors when you only use or need one. We must understand often it is not enough to embrace limitations. Instead, consider creating limitations, because it forces one to consider cost, not just monetary, but also spatial, cognitive, and practical as well. It forces one to ask tough questions about real need versus desire. Most of the time, we don't really know what enough is until we do. Wisdom of sages says, "The things we use, the items we allow into our lives, especially our tools, should be purpose-driven and used with intention. That failing to do so leaves us susceptible to purposes and intentions being chosen for us." In today's time, certain environments and tools are even designed to circumvent our purpose and intentions. For example, Austrian architect Victor Gruen, who designed the first enclosed shopping mall in America, the moment a consumer enters a shopping mall, they get surrounded by an intentionally confusing layout, loses track of their original intentions, and thus are more likely to impulse shop. This is an effect referred to as the Gruen Transfer. We succumb much more easily to this by not having clarified and made firm decisions on our approach in the first place. Thus, one way to gain clarity is to ask some questions and seek these answers within before engaging with any item, tool, or service. Like, is the choice to use this deliberate and purpose-driven? What is my intention for using this? What is my purpose for it? And even more crucially, what is its purpose for me? One can apply these questions to all areas of life, from things as large as our cars and homes to items as basic as our toothbrush or dinner plates. In doing so, you're also making a powerful switch. You are making an intentional choice between simply giving yourself over to someone else's idea of what your purpose should be, and instead choosing your own. Having clarity of purpose and intention help us to eliminate needless items from our life and keep such things from entering it in the first place. If something does not have a clear purpose for you, or your intentions are unsure, you must seriously question its value and worth. The point here is that without a purpose and intention, one is simply wandering a world-sized mall of choice with no clear direction, and therefore liable to wind up anywhere. And too often, that place is one that comes with unexpected costs and hidden surprises. By being purpose-driven, one chooses the destination and experience, and thus ends up where they expect to be. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more empowering content. Thanks for watching.